bigger.
Truly behind the scenes. And look at that. I'm seeing a red box. Even I was caught off guard. I'm looking at the red box. Inside that red box is the word live. Consulting my host manual, and turns out that means we are in fact live. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you love what we do here, check out talkshop.live to view hundreds of the very best artists who, by the way, have many of whom have autographed their album for quite some time. We have an extraordinarily special evening event for all of you. As if they need one, I'm going to ask them and put them to work a little bit if they wouldn't mind doing the honors of introducing themselves. John, we'll start with you because you're on the left of the Brady Bunch configuration.
I guess I'm Marcia. John Ondrasik, aka Five for Fighting, singer-songwriter, coming to you from Los Angeles.
Outstanding. Well done, sir. Man, that was completely on the fly and unrehearsed, no pressure, but over to you, Edwin.
I'm Edwin McCain, singer-songwriter coming at you live from Atlanta, Georgia.
Outstanding. And as if you need some further background, Five for Fighting, man, has all kinds of accolades. I can't think of better ones to cite than 2 platinum albums, not to be outdone. Edwin McCain has 1 platinum, 1 gold album. Edwin's given us great songs, including I'll Be, I Could Not Ask for More, and Solitude, just to name a few. And Five for Fighting, his chances, The Riddle, 100 Years, and of course, Superman, It's Not Easy. And we're here to celebrate these 2 great musical talents who have truly impacted us through the many years that they have entertained us as they join forces on a very special U.S. tour beginning early June, which according to my calendar means next week. So buckle up. Let's kick this show off. And Brennan, if you would, please roll the video.
Thank you, Steve. You made it very easy for me.
Guys, man, I was amped up before that intro. After that intro, man, I feel like, man, we just took it to 12. Why? Because it's 1 more than Nigel's 11. And for those of you who don't get that, man, you got to go watch the movie. That's all I'm saying. I don't know where you all have been. Please welcome, these 2 fine gentlemen. I'm Steve Harkins, your host for the Rock and Roll Channel on Talk Shop Live. None other than Edwin McCain and Five for Fighting's John Ondrasik. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure and my honor. And fans, if you'd like to ask Edwin and John a question or you have a comment, use the chat function and we'll get to as many as possible. Gentlemen, I bring this up often because I think in this day and age, it's extraordinarily important. But you're affiliated with being entertainers and, being in the entertainment field. But I feel like you do much more than that. It seems like these days, the only common thread that we have in bringing people together seems to be music. It doesn't matter what, religious conviction or political affiliation. When you guys set foot on stage or when you deliver new music, you unify people regardless. And, as I said, I think now more than ever, we need you guys and you provide a really important service. So thank you for that.
My guitar player, Larry, one time I was having some moments of doubt and trepidation of what we were supposed to do next. And my guitar player, Larry, said, yeah, you know what we need to do? We need to just go on stage and be the ambassadors of possibility.
I love that.
And I'm so mad that he got to say that. I wanted to say that. I wanted to be smart enough to come up with that line. Sadly, no, he said it. So
you know what, Edwin? It's not too late to print T-shirts with that on it. You can one up them.
Just trying to be the ambassadors of possibility, man. That's it.
You know, one of the blessings of our job, I don't even want to call it a job, blessings of our childhood dream doing this is, we see every nook of America in the world. We go to red states, we go to blue states, we go to purple states, and then at the end of the show, when everybody's singing these songs with us, nobody's talking about political affiliations. They're just holding each other and singing these songs. So I think
Exactly.
even though it seems like the world's very divided, and certainly some respects it is, when you do what we do, we see that we have much more in common than what divides us.
Yeah, it gives us great cause for hope, and congratulations to both of you, man. It's wonderful pairing the two of you. I should probably know this, but had you toured together previously, and
No,
also it's the
and
first time?
it's a crime that we haven't. It's ridiculous
Surprising to hear that.
we haven't, because our songs have probably been playing back to back on hot
Yeah.
TV stations this whole time, and no one. I mean, I'm an idiot. I should have been on the phone with John 20 years ago. I don't know what we were thinking.
Yeah, I'll tell you what do you guys what are you looking forward to on this trek, since this is your first tour together?
Well, for us who've been doing it for a while, I think you can kind of call it, old man rock star summer camp. And it's like,
I
uh,
think I
That's another t-shirt I think should be at the concession table.
I think it should be called the "We Might Be Related" tour. Like we haven't done a DNA test, but every time we're on these things, I was like, man, I
Yeah,
swear we might be cousins.
well,
yeah.
My head's bigger than yours, though. I think we're really gonna whip out the tape measure and put this argument to rest.
well, unlike you, I do not drive my own tour bus, so you have me owned on that front.
That's
But
right.
yeah, I mean, it is wild. I mean, obviously, we have a lot of common friends, and we've kind of passed in the night radio shows, and but I think we're just thrilled to be able to do it and sing these songs from that era and new things and other reality of what's happening in our day and age today.
Absolutely. John, again, I'm sorry I can't get off this t-shirt kick, but I think I smell another t-shirt, and that's saving lives by opting not to drive. So those
He's
fans
like
without
he's like
yeah,
Elvis drove drove his own bus. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
got Elvis and Edwin, the two icons of bus drivers.
I
right.
love it. I
The
love
two
driving.
E's.
Driving the bus is like a meditation, man. Those big
You get
windshields.
it.
Like I've been doing it since I was 18. So I can tell everybody. I was like, if you've ever seen me, most of the time I was the bus driver. There was a period of about 10 years where I passed it off to we had this guy that drove for us named Wrong Way Dave, specializing in U-turns. I love that old guy, and I knew I was never going to find somebody as good as him, so I just started driving again. So
So thankful, Edwin, that you lived to tell the tale.
yeah,
Those fans without a background as far as touring as a musician, often believes that your workday consists of the 90 plus minutes on stage performing. I mean, John, you kind of touched on it earlier, but is it actually fair to say that the real work is really are the 20 or so hours traveling and addressing everything off stage, man? It's that blessing or just a wonderment of the fact that you guys, as talented as you are fortunate enough to be able to to perform in front of all these people.
No, I think the hour and a half, 2 hours on stage is by far the easiest part of the day. I wouldn't call it a nap, but it's the reward for everything else. The traveling, the press obligations, and look, we have families, we have lives outside of music, and so we're dealing with life as we're kind of traveling across the country. So, yeah, those. And it's kind of like, I guess, golf or something, that
Yeah,
hour and a half on stage, we don't have to think about anything else except the people in front of us, the joy of the musicians around us, and just the blessing of being able to do this.
absolutely.
BB King used to say he does the shows for free. What he gets paid for is all the other stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Spot on. Yeah, for sure. So, what can fans expect from each of you as far as your sets are concerned on this tour? Anything you can divulge?
I'm pulling music off from 10 records, and we'll probably mix it up some. And then we have some surprises too, but I won't spoil it.
Nice. I tried, and I understand completely, and I respect that decision. John, what about you?
Well, of course, we'll play the songs that folks want to hear. It's frankly always annoying to me when artists don't play their hits. So you'll hear the songs that you want to hear. We always do a song that recognizes our troops. So
Yeah,
we always do a song to recognize our troops and military families. And
amazing.
as Edward said, we tend to pull a deep cut. You may hear Bella's Birthday Cake, the first song ever that came from Five for Fighting that probably 10 people know, but we're going to play that some nights. And it's
Amazing.
always fun to throw in a cover or two to remind kind of ourselves of our influences. And certainly at some point in the day in the night, Edwin and I will hop on together, and we got some fun surprises. I do got to say that I'm learning a certain song that I love that he does a killer version of. And there's always surprises. We might have some guests, but one thing I always like to say is it's a family show, so don't be afraid of bringing the kids, bring the grandparents, bring the dog. Everybody's welcome.
Absolutely. And even the sayings on these new T-shirts these guys are going to be printing up for this tour will pass the muster test for all family members, for sure. You guys say, it's sense you have a sense like, maybe there's some bloodline relation. Edwin, you're from South Carolina. I believe Greenville's where you grew up, and I'm not too far from you. I'm in Charlotte. It's incredible how much growth and evolution has taken place. For me in Charlotte, man, over 25 years, I came from Chicago. Barely recognized the city since I've moved here. I sense you probably feel the same way about Greenville.
Yeah, when I first, I lived I had an apartment, I should say, I had an apartment in Atlanta for a little while. And
Yeah.
when I moved back to Greenville, I was listening to the radio, and it was like 5 o'clock, and they said, now for the 5 o'clock traffic report. And I thought it was a bit. I was like, oh, this is going to be funny. Cause I was
Yeah.
like, Greenville doesn't have traffic. What are you talking about? Like there's a cow out on the road, but man, it's totally different now. We got a bunch of people living there. And my dad used to give me the keys to the car, but his one rule was you can have the keys to the car, but you better not go downtown.
Exactly. Exactly. But, great culture, man. It's evolved, people love the city.
Yeah, it's really now people come to Greenville from Atlanta to have a weekend away, which I think is hilarious. But,
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. John, Los Angeles, heart and soul, right? You're born and bred?
Born and raised Valley boy, UCLA, and we kind of still live out kind of Thousand Oaks towards Santa Barbara, but yeah, parents here, family business here, so it's you can't beat the weather. A lot of my friends have moved out. They're going to Tennessee, they're going to Georgia, they're going to Florida, but my parents are here, and as long as they're with us, I'll be here in LA.
Good for you. And, I got to ask you, who are your noteworthy mentors or supporters, of you and Five for Fighting, starting out during those developmental years? Is there anyone or a group of people that really stand out that embraced you guys?
Well, for me, first of all, I have to start with my parents, who've been
Yeah.
very supportive. Mom was a music teacher.
Yeah.
She still is waiting for the whole house of, cards to collapse. She can't believe that I'm doing this. And my dad was an astrophysicist for them. But, one kind
Well,
of interesting mentor that probably people wouldn't think of is right out of college, I joined a group of ex-Pat Benatar band members. And I was 22. They were all in their 40s,
is that
and we
right?
started doing this rock thing. And at the pool I met this guy Scott Sheets, who wrote Fire and Ice for Pat Benatar, and another guy named Rudy Sarzo, who at the time
Sure.
was the bass player of Whitesnake at the top of their career, and of course with Ozzy and Quiet Riot, and complete rock star. And we were kind of living down in Malibu, and I was in an apartment, and he became my mentor. And I was like the kid in Almost Famous. I'd go to the gigs with him, and he'd say, "All right, you can go in that room, but you can't go in that room." And who knew Rudy Sarzo, the guy who licks his bass, was a closet Barry Manilow fan, and
Exactly.
he loved male, he loved singer songwriters, he loved the piano, and so he was kind of a really strong mentor. And to this day, I think he's besides my parents, he made be the proudest papa of me, and just a wonderful human being, and still on the road doing 100 shows a year with Quiet Riot. So Rudy Sarzo, thank you, Rudy. I love
Uh,
you.
uh, yeah, I love hearing that. I'm not surprised either. I mean, I'm not come across a musician who's ever had, a curse word to say, in terms about, Rudy and what he brings to the table. He seems to draw, just these great vibes, with every musician that crosses his path. I appreciate you sharing that. Edwin, I know you're probably tired of telling the tale, but I always feel it's important, to share that, with your roots in South Carolina, how important Hootie and the Blowfish have been, regarding your career.
I never get tired of telling the tale. Those guys were so influential for me, helping me get started. We all were, so the best we were hoping for were be able to play regionally, and the Southeastern bands were kind of overlooked.
Yeah.
And then Dave Matthews started blowing up, and then Hootie started blowing up, and we were opening for both of those bands. And it was so right time, right place, right time. The Hootie guys really pushed Atlantic to sign me along with them, and it was just a perfect storm, to be honest with you. I often quote Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers. You can't underestimate the importance of timing,
Yeah.
and we had great timing. We were in the right place at the right time, and I was living in Hilton Head at the time, and there was a guy named LG Stover that used to come to my gigs, and he LG's claim to fame was he cooked barbecue out on Highway 278,
Yeah.
and everybody loved LG's barbecue, and he was a
Yeah.
character. And LG invited me to his house one day, and I showed up there, and it was this beautiful house overlooking a marsh, and he had a perfectly restored Mercedes convertible in the driveway, and he came walking out, and I was like, LG, barbecue has been good to you. He was like, no, no, barbecue, that's just a hobby. And he took me in his house, and he had all these gold records. And turns out my friend LG just happened to be one of the producers for Marvin Gaye's What's Going On.
Holy
So,
mackerel.
so LG kind of became this weird coach, and he would make me come to his house on Saturdays, and I'd play him what little, I'm 18 years old, and I'm playing whatever little song I had, and he'd sit across the table from me like this.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe what you're singing to me. And he became kind of a mentor. And so I all props to LG. He was quite an influence on me early on.
I was bracing myself, Edwin, for you telling the tale of how tough it was being homeless, in Hilton Head, which, by the way, is kind of like my goal in life. Before I die, I hope, I can be homeless in Hilton Head, but, this isn't about me. I got to ask you guys, starting with you, John, which artists influenced you musically growing up that really had a profound impact on you?
Well, Billy Joel was my first concert, not a
Yeah.
surprise there. And of course, you talk about the piano players, Elton, of course, and Billy, and the
Yeah.
Beatles, and then of course the classic rockers. As a singer, Freddie Mercury, Steve Perry. I actually
That's a good one.
found Steve Perry's voice teacher, and learned very quickly that a lot of these guys train classically. They train operatically. So I started
Right.
kind of doing that and following in their footsteps, and but of course, I think we're both kind of, at least for me, kind of a child of the 70s and the great singer-songwriters, Joni Mitchell, James Taylor, go down the list. And of course, Zeppelin and The Who and all the classics everybody talks about. So I guess it's probably not a surprise, Elton and Billy are right at the top for me.
Not at all. People are shocked to hear that Robin Zander of Cheap Trick's background was singing opera vocally.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was a parade of rock stars when I went to my voice lessons. Axl Rose, Jack
Yeah.
White, Don
Wow.
Dawkins. They were all, I was in LA, so they're all coming through,
Yeah.
and they're all singing, training classically, uh, to sing, 250 nights a year the way they do. So it was a great training. I actually had a decision at some point to go to Europe and maybe pursue opera, but I was, listening to Frampton and the Beatles and writing rock songs. So it was a pretty easy decision to make.
No doubt about it for sure. And Edwin, I think we might have discussed this, but I got to ask you again. Who influenced you, planted those seeds growing up?
So in 1977, I was 7 years old, and I found this album in my sister's collection that had a pyramid on it, and it was a band called Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah, that's a good
I
one.
put that album on the turntable, and I put the headphones on, and Serpentine Fire showed up and blew my 7-year-old mind.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly having this thought as a 7-year-old. I remember thinking, human beings can get together and make this happen. Like, this is what you can do with other people. And I remember thinking, I got to be a part of this. And,
Yeah.
uh, and, and Earth, Wind, and Fire had a profound influence on me, because that's all I wanted. Like, for the next 10 years, any present, you just get me an Earth, Wind, and Fire record or cassette, and yeah. So Maurice White had a huge impact on me, and their music was so positive and uplifting, and they were spreading a really important message worldwide. And I don't think they get enough credit for what they did and what they
It's so true.
continued to do. But then Tower of Power, and
Yeah.
then Marvin Gaye and Wilson Pickett, and gosh, most of the Motown stuff was a big influence on me. But then I took this weird left turn into Van Halen, the first three
That
Van Halen
that's a
records.
left turn at Albuquerque for sure.
Right. And then took a weird right-hand turn or even 180 turn into all that great Southern California punk music, like Black Flag and Dead Kennedys and TSOL and DR
Wow.
and all of that. And I was so jealous of people that lived in California at the time, because that music was so, in my mind, was so pure, because it really had no inclination of commercial reward. It was
Yeah.
purely for itself, and it was purely this like injection of attitude. And it was, I was one of those little skater kids, and
Yeah.
I was all about some Husker Du, and I love the fact that Bob Mould put Sugar back together this
Yeah, I
year.
agree with you. You're right.
And so strangely, I am the bastard child of all of those things. And it turned out kind of weird, but it works, right? So I tell my friends all the time, I probably cost myself a lot of money because I love punk music so much, and I have a little punk, it lives inside me to this day.
But
So
you know what? That just reminds me how upset I am now that we didn't consider instituting a cover charge for this evening. And we're learning so much about you two guys. And
but I
yeah,
love those. I mean, I go back and look at YouTube videos of Jello Biafra.
yeah.
Just, it's so fantastic. Anyway, I mean, I can't help it.
No, that's awesome. I love that for sure. And by the way, man, since I got you on the spot, what is the deal with you and your daughter and TikTok?
It was an accident. So
Was it
one of her teachers made her class watch my music video, and she
really
came
as
home.
punishment or as a assignment or?
Well, it was
Oh,
punishment to her. And she came home and was absolutely mortified by having to sit there and watch her dad's music video. And I happened to whip out my phone and get her to tell the story. And from that video got like 20 million views. So her absolute horror of my existence was internet gold. And it just kind of, then I just started filming our little interactions because we have a really good relationship, and she's brutal as far as picking me apart. And apparently the internet really likes it when she takes me down a peg.
Yeah, I love that. And John, man, I am hereby assigning myself for the inaugural award for Dumbass of the Year because, just doing a little research, I never connected Five for Fighting and the name, and I had to bring it up because my team is in the Eastern Conference Stanley Cup Finals. So I had to bring that up, but I never correlated Five for Fighting, and it was so obvious.
It's a funny story, actually. It was the late '90s, and of course, at the time, it was about Lilith Fair boy bands, grunge music,
Yeah.
and EMI Records came to me. My record was done. For those of you watching who don't know what a record is, just ask your grandparents. But they came to me kind of last minute, said, "Hey, John, the male singer-songwriter's dead. You need a band name." And you being a hockey fan, Steve, you probably remember Marty McSorley, Wayne
Absolutely.
Gretzky's bodyguard, and I'm an LA Kings fan. And I'd gone to a hockey game, and Marty did what he usually does: it's
Yeah.
protect Wayne, and got a couple 5 for fighting, 5 minutes for fighting the penalty. And so when they said you need a band name, I sarcastically said, how about 5 for fighting, expecting them to hate it. And they're
Yeah.
like, "We love it." And I'm like,
Brilliant.
"Are you crazy?" It's like, it sounds like we should be opening for Metallica. And the funniest part is, when you're a new artist, you play any gig anywhere. So Five for Fighting would be kind of booked into these kind of, raves, heavy metal gigs. And I'd be, playing Superman, and people be moshing in front of me. It was very odd.
Yeah.
But here we are 25 years later, and I can get a ticket to pretty much any hockey game. Good luck to your Carolina Hurricanes. I think they're
Thank you.
going to have a nice run with the Golden Knights, and should be a great final.
It's been fun. You know how it is, man. You've been on the ride before. I'm from Chicago, and I got to experience those 3 Stanley Cups as well. Boy, there's nothing more fun. It isn't the victory when it's all said and done. It's the journey, right?
There's nothing better than NHL playoffs, especially live. I mean, it literally has taken 10 years off my life. The stress of watching your team go through the Stanley Cup. It's almost more fun to watch teams that are not your team so you can enjoy it. But yeah, it's been a great
Yeah, it's
run.
stressful.
And Carolina's been knocking on the door for a long time. So hopefully, good old Justin Williams played for the Kings. He's the Carolina kind of face of the old days. But maybe it's time for a new Stanley Cup. The South seems to own the Stanley Cup, right? So
Right.
what are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm drinking your Kool-Aid, that's for sure. Baptist Pope is saying, "I'm glad I'm not the only one who didn't get 5 for fighting." So thanks, we can form a club, brother. Also, Tamara Cooney saying, "Earth, Wind, and Fire is awesome." Tim Cox is saying, "See you in Tulsa." Thanks, and that's why we're here. We're celebrating this great tour and encourage any of you, if you're within a 200-mile radius, start packing your bags. You got to see these 2 guys. This is a truly special tour. And also Nathan Hirschberg, I want to say thank you for being here as well. Spam Hutton saying, "Hey, John," and Kristen King, amen, saying Clearwater Beach, Florida, loving you guys, man. It's like you guys are spanning the globe for sure. And let's see here. Kyle Davis Music saying 2 frogs. Not exactly sure how to translate that, but there you go, ladies and gentlemen. And Cheryl F is saying, "Looking forward to seeing you guys in Des Moines." And that is my cue to let everyone know that tonight we're celebrating the union of 2 amazing artists. No, not in matrimony. They're going on tour. Edwin McCain and 5 for Fighting. The tour starts June 4th next week. Let's see if I can take a deep breath, and I'm going to make an attempt at this Thursday, June 4th. That's next week at Paducah, Kentucky in Carson Center. June 5th, that's a Friday in Memphis, Tennessee, Graceland Soundstage. June 6th, the following night, Saturday, Bowling Green, Kentucky at Sky Pack. Sunday, June 7th, Lexington, Kentucky at Lexington Opera House. June 9th, Tuesday, Nashville, Indiana at Brown County Music Center. June 12th, that's a Friday at St. Ignace, Michigan, and that's Kewadin. I think I got that right, Casino. And also June 13th, Saturday, Northfield Park, Ohio, MGM Northfield Park. Sunday, June 14th in Cincinnati, Ohio at Taft Theater. Also June 16th on a Tuesday, Morgantown, West Virginia, the Metropolitan Theater. And June 18th, Thursday, right outside of Chicago, my own stopping grounds in Des Plaines, Illinois, the beautiful Des Plaines Theater. June 19th, Friday in Green Bay, Wisconsin at the Epic Event Center. June 20th, Saturday, Morton, Minnesota, the Jackpot Junction Casino. Omaha, Nebraska on June 21st. On a Sunday at Steelhouse, the Val Air Ballroom in Des Moines, Iowa. June 23rd on a Tuesday. June 25th, that's a Thursday, Arlington, Texas at the Arlington Music Hall. June 26th, that's my wife's birthday, Friday. Thanks for reminding me, guys, at Tulsa, Oklahoma, at Chapman Music Hall. Also on June 27th at Salina, Kansas, at the Stifle Theater. That's a Saturday. Sunday, June 28th in Colorado Springs, Colorado, Pikes Peak Center. And then winding down these amazing dates, Tuesday, June 30th in Denver, Colorado at Paramount Theater. And finally, Wednesday, July 1st, Layton, Utah, at Kenley Amphitheater. And if you go to these guys' websites, you also see that they're alternating in terms of who's opening and closing. And to commemorate this truly special tour, we've printed an extremely low number of tour posters. To be specific, only 200. They'll be numbered, and most importantly, they'll be signed by both Edwin and John. To order your copies, hit the shop button on Talk Shop Live, and on socials, Facebook and Instagram, comment shop. We'll DM you a link. And if you happen to be watching this from YouTube, click the link inside the description. The rest is quick, easy, and pain-free. Unlike the slight arthritic condition that John and Edwin may have developed, signing for you fine fans, but well on the way to recovery before the tour. And hurry, they're limited quantities. Guys, I got to ask you, was there one singular moment when you knew performing and recording, was your pathway? I often say sometimes it's not by your choice. Sometimes it chooses you. John, we'll start with you.
Well, it's doing this has always been my childhood passion, and I think one moment that might have kind of changed my brain triggers a little bit is performing at the Concert for New York and
Yeah.
understanding how music can really transcend like nothing else. And I think
Yeah.
that experience, as humbling as it was, I think maybe reframed why I wanted to do this. Talking about Van Halen, when I was young, I just wanted to do kicks like David Lee Roth, right? I just want to
Yeah.
do kicks. I want to be able to do splits like Prince. All of that stuff. But I think that moment kind of maybe reminded me why this can matter, and maybe framed some of the other stuff I've done since then.
Yeah, I appreciate that insight, man. That was a special moment. I wasn't there on site. Obviously, it was dedicated to the many responders, and rightfully so. But that was a really special night, man. It reminded us what really matters in life. And Edwin, how about you? Was there a particular moment in time where it was like an aha moment? The light bulb went on.
Well, the day I left for college, my father came running in my room early and woke me up, panicked. And he said, I had this terrible dream that you were riding around the country in a van with long hair, playing music for a living.
Black flag music, no less.
Promise me you're never going to do that.
There you go, man. If that wasn't a pass, go collect $200 card, man. I don't know what was.
Sounds kind of fun. But I
love
started
that.
my entire career with a big fat lie to my father. So he's forgiven me now, though. I think we're all good.
It's some insights, man. We're talking about the tour and everything. Do you guys have any rituals during sound check? Anything to break up what might be considered monotony at during sound check? Edwin, how about you?
I just pick on the sax player. That makes my life complete.
That's good call. Yeah, absolutely. John, what about you?
There's a lot of practical jokes. I have to say, over the years, it's changed a bit. The writers changed, our diets changed, our medications changed, so
Yeah.
we kind of like pace ourselves a little bit, these days. We don't, do the hour and a half sound checks. But yeah, it's really like, I think, I don't want to speak for Edwin, but part of the joy of doing it, at this part of our careers, you hear about athletes talk about how they miss the locker room.
Yeah.
Just the camaraderie of the guys out on the road, and the jokes, and staying up till the dawn and sleep until noon, and the stories. Everybody's got much better stories now. And I think that is also a great joy of doing this. So so that's, we look forward to that every summer.
I'll tell you what, you must have seen, the litany of, talking points that I had, next, John. You were kinda cheating, but, it's a good segue into a segment, I hereby refer to as Moments of Truth. Again, we've never really done an event like this before, so guys, I thank you that you still stuck through this whole thing and haven't, said goodbye yet, and I'm hopeful that after this segment, you won't, do so, but what was the largest piece, this is Moments of Truth, guys. What was the largest piece of furniture, including a flat screen television or person, that you threw out of a hotel window while on the road? And if the answer is never did that happen during my career, when was the last time you considered that action on the road?
That's easy for me. We
Yeah.
were playing a gig, and we happened to ride up the elevator with Alice Cooper,
Oh, there you
and
go.
I was doing everything I could do not to just freak out all the way. And
Yeah.
he was so nice. He was really nice to us. And then we got out of the elevator, and then awkwardly we were just walking together towards the same way, and it felt weird, like we were following him. And it turned out my room was directly across the hall from Alice.
Perfect.
And so Alice, and then we got into, I went into my room, he went into his room, and me and my drummer were like going, Alice, 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 Alice. And he's just talking about Alice and how many shows we'd seen in Alice, Alice, Alice. And then all of a sudden there was a knock at the door, and I jokingly went, Alice? And it was him. And he goes, and from behind the door, he goes, yeah. And I was like, holy shit. And so I opened the door, and there's Alice, and he's holding this big, tray full of ice, and it's got beer and booze. And I guess they didn't realize that Alice had quit drinking. So he didn't,
Yeah.
they had put that in his room. And so he goes, listen, I don't have any use for any of this, but you guys might. And at that time, I definitely did. And
Yeah.
I was not sober at this moment. And
Yeah.
so then we said, thank you, took this whole tray full of beer and booze and back in our room. And I was like, well, there's only one thing to do. When Alice Cooper brings you a whole tray of booze, you drink all of it and trash the
Yeah.
hotel room. Like, that's like a mandatory rock and roll thing to do. And so
Absolutely.
I'm not allowed at the Crown Plaza in Columbia, South Carolina anymore.
Banned for life, huh? Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Hopefully it was cathartic for you, man, just exercising your demons. John, what about you?
Nothing quite as cool as that, though.
Yeah.
Alice Cooper, still plays 18 holes of golf every day. So,
Right.
you can take inspiration from that. But remember on Letterman, he used to just go to the top of buildings and drop stuff off them.
Absolutely. It was
Um,
a daytime show, I think. Yeah, when he first
yeah,
started. Yeah.
yeah. So there were a few episodes of road boredom that people would take, whatever watermelon or pizza or sometimes even a guitar that they don't like anymore, and do the roof toss. So yeah, I can't say I have any good stories of destroying hotel rooms but there's always time, and
Yeah, that's
maybe we
right.
can bring Alice out onto a gig and reminisce about Edwin's experience.
Yeah, how we rehearse this, I would have suggested you embellish that story and say that Alice was at the bottom and he said, "Hey, John, thanks for the pizza." You know?
I threw his golf clubs off the roof, and he never talked to me again. No.
Absolutely. Have you guys, again, moments of truth, ever suffered from the phobia when playing a new song or deep track, otherwise known as the beer run or bathroom break syndrome?
Oh, yeah. If I
Yeah.
want people to head to the bar, I just say, hey, I'm going to play a new song tonight. And then off they go.
But there's been moments, I'm sure, when that's happened and it's connected with fans where a number of them, said, "Hey, wait a minute, what is this?"
I'll Be was one of those.
Yeah.
I just sprung it on an audience. I was like, this is a new song, and played it, and they didn't leave. So I was like, wait a minute,
You
maybe
might
this
have something here.
song.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. John, what about you?
Yeah, I even announced that, if you want to go to the bathroom, I'm not going to play 100 Years or Superman for a couple songs to give him a break. And I always tell young songwriters, it's like the moment of truth for a song is when you play it live. So for us, that's part of our process of of kind of gauging, what we have, because often, at 3 in the morning, you think you wrote Let It Be,
Yeah.
but until you play it live, and it's always fun too. Like, Superman also, it took a while to catch on. It wasn't a song that, when we played, people like to hear the tempo, the rock stuff. You'd see people kind of talking through it, but every once in a while you'd see somebody kind of turn around right at the end of the song, and people listening. But that's probably the hardest thing to do as a young live performer, is to play audiences, songs they've never heard before. But that makes you a better songwriter and a better performer. And we still do it. There'll be a song or two that I'm working on now that we'll whip out for a show or two, just so I can get a sense of what I have and go back to the drawing board.
As a fan, I actually I do really appreciate that for sure. I just got a couple more. I don't want to abuse the honor of being with you two guys. Most outlandish item ever requested on your contract writer. You opened up that can of worms, John. So what was there anything that you would consider outlandish in your career that you requested?
I've read those kind of insane writers, and they're
Yeah,
really fun. Van Halen has a really good one.
right.
But we've been, as I said, the writers have changed. Now it's stuff like, protein powder and, Ozempic and Xanax, whatever
Right,
it is. Like,
right.
it's all
Face
changed. But
bandages and tubes of Bengay. Yeah.
yeah, so we've been pretty, if I got some Coke Zero, some peanut butter, and some bread, and,
It,
I'm ready to go.
you're a happy man and you're going to put on a
Yeah.
good show. Yeah. Edwin, what about you?
Well, when we went out on tour with Hootie, they got offended because all we asked for was water and towels, and they were like, "You have to put more than that on your rider." I was like, "Well, that's all we really need." And
Yeah.
so they added like Doritos and some salsa or something. But yeah,
Just on principle. Yeah. Yeah.
because they always bum me out when there would just be all this stuff left over that nobody had
Yeah.
touched. Like, I
Yeah.
was like, this is wasteful. And so we're pretty lean and mean, but there was a period of time where I did ask for a pack of white athletic socks because I'd
Just
make everybody,
because you could.
well, and I'd make everybody throw away their socks because the bus was getting whiffy after.
Yes. Yeah. For the sake of hygiene. Yeah. Yeah, it's practical for sure. Guys, I was going to ask you about, for a moment of truth, what was the ratio of women to men backstage after your first gold or platinum album? But I'm going to pivot to this last one, and then we'll get back to reality. But did you ever have violent thoughts in years past spending quality time backstage with the local record company promotional man? Edwin, we'll start with you.
I loved all of our locals. Like when I signed at Atlantic, all of the local guys were the dudes that were still
Making it
there
happen.
from the 70s,
Yeah,
and they had the best stories from
you
all
got that right.
the huge rock bands. Like, I mean, I couldn't wait. I love all I s- I can still tell stories from those days from those guys, and they were my heroes because they were the last class of old school cigar chomping radio promo dudes,
I
and
hear that.
I'd go to the mattresses for them. I owe
There's
them.
some great guys, man. I grew up in the industry, working closely with a lot of Chicago radio promo guys, and
Michael
they were characters.
Michael Stevens was Michael Stevens, Michael Brannon. There
Yeah,
was, I mean,
yeah,
I loved them all. They were great.
yeah. John, what about you? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
No, I have to agree. I mean, they were there because they really love music, right?
Yeah,
And they would do anything to sell a record. Literally, they'd put the Superman cape on, they'd run around on stage, and then the stories too. To hear about Jeff Buckley and Dylan, when they were young artists coming up, and they were hardcore. They're typically pretty crazy. They like to party, but boy, did they fight for their artists.
yeah.
And they really were kind of like your wingmen. They really kind
It's
of
true.
made you feel like, the big record executives. We know about kind of them and those stories, but they really felt like they were on your team, and would give their left arm for a spin on the radio. And as a young artist, you really needed that, because you're insecure. There's always kind of things going on that you doubt yourself, and just to
And,
have them kind of on your side was a big deal.
It's a big deal because you know what, man, your hands to a large extent, your career, right, is in their hands, I should say. And you know, I mean, radio airplay was paramount to whether or not you'd go to the next level, you know, and sometimes labels would say, yeah, we're not really going to work this artist. We're just going to see, you know, as they say, you know, if it sticks to the wall, you know, let them work it. And if there's a story, then maybe we'll invest. So I'm not surprised to hear you guys say that. And frankly, I'm kind of relieved because I know a lot of characters and some pretty good guys as well. And tonight, I want to remind everyone we're celebrating the union of two amazing artists on tour, and that's Edwin McCain and, of course, Five for Fighting. The tour starts June 4th. That's actually next week in Paducah, or do you say Paducah? Say that 20 times fast, Kentucky.
Paducah.
Yeah, there we go, man. That's why I knew you guys were here. You got my back. Carson Center, and it runs through early July. The last show is in Layton, Utah, Kenley Amphitheater. I'll run through the dates one more time before we call it a night. But check out both the Five for Fighting website as well as Edwin's website for dates. And you guys need to be there. It's going to be a truly special moment. And what's even more special is to commemorate this tour. We have printed an extremely low number of tour posters printed specifically for this event that specifically calls out this tour and the dates. It's going to be incredible keepsake, whether or not you get a chance to see these guys or not. Only 200 to be exact are produced, and they'll be numbered and most importantly signed by Edwin and John. To order your copies, hit the shop button on Talk Shop Live on socials, Facebook and Instagram. Comment shop will DM you a link. And if you're watching us through YouTube, click the link inside the description, and the rest is quick and easy. And you know what? Go out and check out, man, this tour, man. There's no greater way to show these guys how much you care than being a part of the festivities for sure. And you know, guys, I just got to ask you, a few more questions here. As far as the writing process, which I find incredibly fascinating. You know, did you have that moment where, you know, when you wrote that special song, that, you know, once it was not only written, but it's actually recorded, where it spoke to you and said, you know what, there's something special? Because again, if the people out there aren't songwriters or musicians, you know, it isn't like this is you go to school. I mean, you can, right, technically to be taught how to be a songwriter, but there's magic involved. And, you know, if there was a formula for how you can write something that's going to stand the test of time, and both of you guys have written songs that have stood the test of time, you know, if it was a way that we can share with everybody, music would be boring. We'd all be writing the same music at this, you know, end of the day. But you strike gold, and you know it's hard to explain. Sometimes you're a vessel, sometimes you're trying to write a song to see what happens. But John, starting with you, you know, with Superman, did you sense when you wrote the song and when it was recorded that maybe there was something here?
To be honest with you, I didn't. I think, part of being a good anything, it's not very romantic, but it's just work ethic. It's writing hundreds of songs, thousands of songs, and improving. Superman did have the kind of unique distinction that, I wrote it kind of from beginning to end in 45 minutes. So I
Amazing.
kind of look at, with the exception of we doubled up the second verse, but it
Yeah.
was truly a gift. And, at the time I really, was fancying myself as a rocker. And
Yeah.
I thought, well, it seems like a nice song. Maybe I'll pitch it to, I don't know, Barbara Streisand, James Taylor. But my producer, Greg Wattenberg, he kept coming back to that we called it a little song. That little song goes, that little song, if anyone ever hears that song, they might relate to it. And it was just kind of this little song, this little kind of ditty, that is the reason we're now talking. But again, I think, so much of any success is you think your failure if you're a hitter in baseball and hit 300. Songwriter, if you're 1 out of 1,000, you're batting very well. So I think
That's
for
so
me, a
true.
lot of it was just, writing a lot of songs, looking at my influences as I grow up and continuing to evolve. And sometimes, as Edwin said, a lot of it is just kind of fate and timing and the zeitgeist, and the song catches wind,
Yeah.
and it's beyond your control. And there's been other songs I've written that I thought, okay, this one could be a popular song, and it turned out not to be. I do have to say, what after 100 years took 3 months, but after I wrote 100 years, I thought, well, this is a nice follow up to Superman, because it's the same guy, but it's a song that I think could stand on its own.
Yeah.
So there's no rhymes or reason to it, but again, if you're lucky enough to have a song or two that 30 years later people are singing back to you, I think for a songwriter there's no better joy.
Boy, well said for sure. Lisa Dudley's a Sabres fan here, and what a season they had. Lisa, kudos. Buffalo deserves, much love and successful sports teams for sure. Carla's saying, I can't wait to go to the tour. Same with Maria, Vovos, Oster. Also, Hoosier Girl is saying, see you in Paducah. And Michelle is saying, hi, John and Carla. Just got Carla's book, Stop Trying.
I think the Carla you mentioned was my wife. So,
There we
so
go.
she's watching us. Yeah, Carla was actually a very successful music publisher for EMI Publishing, signed bands like No Doubt, Incubus, Jewel,
I love
and so
that.
she's been my partner in crime in this whole adventure, and she won't come out for the whole tour, but she'll spend a couple days in the bus with us.
And what a wonderful woman. I've never met her, but for her to, to support you and actually purchase tickets to see you in concert, I think is really speaking volumes. Not to mention, putting comments here in the chat. We appreciate that. Debbie P is saying Caniacs. Agree. Good luck to all of us. Curtis saying, can't wait to see you guys 5 times on this tour. You got somebody who's going to see you guys 5 times. Again, in this day and age, a lot of distractions economically, a little challenging. That really says something about, again, how important a function you guys provide.
We're lucky to still be doing it.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, amen to that for sure. No question about it. Again, a reminder when we're celebrating the union of these 2 amazing artists, and I'm referring to, of course, Edwin McCain and Five for Fighting. The tour starts June 4th. That's next Thursday in Kentucky at Carson Center. They'll be in Memphis on the 5th. They'll be in Bowling Green, Kentucky on the 6th, Lexington, Kentucky on the 7th, Nashville, Indiana, June 9th, St. Ignace, Michigan, June 12th, the 13th at Northfield Park, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio on June 14th, Morgantown, West Virginia on the 16th. That's a Tuesday, Des Plaines, Illinois, outside of my hometown, Thursday, June 18th, on the 19th in Green Bay, Morton, Minnesota on June 20th, Omaha, Nebraska on June 20th, on the 21st of June, that's in Omaha, Nebraska on the 21st, 23rd in Des Moines, Iowa, Arlington, Texas on the 25th, Tulsa, Oklahoma on the 26th of June. On the 27th, they'll be in Salina, Kansas, and Colorado Springs in Colorado, of course, June 28th. And winding down June 30th on a Tuesday in Denver, Colorado, and Layton, Utah. They close out the tour, and that's July 1st. And again, to commemorate this tour, we're offering this extremely limited number of tour posters printed specifically for the tour and this event. Only 200 to be exact. They'll be numbered. And both guys have graciously agreed to sign it. So this will be an heirloom, something that you treasure, whether or not you get a chance to see them. You know what? Pull the trigger now by hitting the shop button and Talk Shop Live on socials, Facebook and Instagram. Comment shop. We'll DM you a link. And on YouTube, click the link in the description. The rest is quick and easy. And there's no greater way to show how much you appreciate these guys than showing up and being part of the event on this amazing tour. Guys, I wanted to slide one other thing in, and it's kind of a technical thing, being a former musician. When there were a lot of gigs and clubs to play in Chicago, and you actually could play some original material along with covers. But your thoughts about the wedge, and I'm not talking about a prank that the band member pulls on you as far as your undergarments. We're talking about obviously the monitor on stage versus in ear, and that experience. I suspect you guys have gone through both experiences, and kind of your thoughts and preferences. To me, in ear always felt like a scary proposition, maybe because your life is in the hands of, you know, the person that's working the monitors. But the truth is, I guess that also applies for the wedge. So, John, we'll start with you on your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm kind of from both worlds. I'm one in, one out. So I have
Yeah.
one ear in and I have wedges, and I've never been able to find an in-ear mix that kind of made me feel like I was kind of with the crowd. And it may just be that we don't have the resources to do that. But so, and also if your ears go down or something, you have your wedge there. It's probably not ideal because, you have the drummer right behind you blasting you out. But I'm one in, one out, and that's kind of for me the best of both worlds.
Makes sense. What about you, Edwin?
You'll pry my wedges out of my cold, dead.
All right, man. The gospel according to Edwin McCain, man. I'm drinking that Kool-Aid as well.
I love it loud. Because I like it. I like being able to hear what everybody else is doing and turn them up, let it rip.
Yeah. I'm so glad I asked that question, and then there's vinyl. That's for the next show for sure. And, there's so many fans out there that have joined us this evening, and we know your time's a premium. We really appreciate it. Support these guys and support yourself, because I'll tell you what, this is great modern medical music medicine. At the end of the day, this is what the doctor prescribed for all of us in this day and age. Go out there and check out this tour. It's going to be absolutely amazing without question. And if you have any concerns or you don't agree with me, my email address is steve@talkshop.live. You send a note to me and I'll make it right. That's how great I think this tour absolutely is going to be. These guys are going to deliver just an incredible tour, one for the ages for sure. Gentlemen, other than the tour, anything you can share with us as far as the balance of the year? It's hard to believe we are literally right on the cusp of June 2026.
It's flying by. My life
Yeah.
is flying by.
Yeah. Edwin, anything you got on the docket that you can share with the fans that you got planned?
I'm consistently recording. I have a bunch of songs that are sort of in varying states of completion. So there'll be some new music rolling out.
Love hearing that.
I'm working on some other projects that are outside of music, but still in the entertainment world. That I'll let people know how that's going. I've got a meeting tomorrow with some folks about doing some short form stuff, so it'll be cool.
That sounds great. There's always a welcome mat with your name on it here too, if you want to, divulge that to all the fans out there. And John, what about you? Anything you can share as far as plans for the balance of the year?
Yeah, we always do kind of string quartet intimate shows
Yeah.
in the spring and the fall. So this fall we'll be kind of in the Northeast doing the string quartet run. My daughter Olivia and her band Lace and Lee will be opening for us. And if you're watching NBC on July 4th on USA 250, you might see me on a big old aircraft carrier singing Superman. So tune in for that on July 4th, celebrating our great nation.
That's awesome, man. You always step up for that, and I think that's really amazing for sure. And I'd like to thank all the fans for joining us this evening. Also, special thanks to Nick Manarino and all of our friends at Red Light Management. Also, Melissa Dragrich, Grayson Worsley, Jay Coyle, Karen Allison, Julie Lichtenstein. Also, Larry Webman, Chandler Coyle, Wally Verson, and Michelle Gutenstein. And if I got your last names wrong, it's your fault. You didn't send me your phonetic spelling, but I tried. And to our fulfillment partners at All Media Supply, that'll get you these amazing limited edition signed posters to you folks. And also to Brian, Sandy, Tina, Brad, Joe, Jenny, Lavani, Marty, Kate, Brendan, and Sam. Behind the scenes, specifically Brendan, all from Talk Shop Live. Great job as always, Brendan. But most importantly, to John from Five from Fighting for fighting, and also to Edwin for continuing to provide and share their musical gifts with all of us. Gentlemen, before I part company, any last words you'd like to share with the fans out there? John, we'll start with you.
As I said, family show. Can't wait to see everybody. Can't wait to hang out with Edwin and the guys, and it's going to be a blast.
Absolutely. Edwin?
I know John and I have talked about this before, but we're so grateful to everybody for giving us 35-year careers. It really is. I think I always refer back to the 15-year-old that I once was, and
Yeah.
he would have crawled through a river of fire to be able to do what we're doing right now. So we're very grateful.
I'll tell you what, so are we too, man. Great music stands the test of time, as do great artists. And also that you guys continue to put out great music is a blessing and a gift for all of us. Pick up the limited edition 2026 tour poster, numbered a total of 200, produced exclusively and available through the Rock and Roll Channel Talk Shop Live, personally autographed by Edwin and John. And while you're at it, by the way, pick up these unique gifts and tickets as a gift for Father's Day coming up, graduations coming up, or just show someone how much you care, man. There's no greater gift than sharing music. It's a gift that lasts a lifetime. And again, if you love what we're doing here on Talk Shop Live, visit talkshop.live to view hundreds of great shows, the very best artists like these two amazing talents this evening, many of whom have autographed their albums for fans like you. John and Edwin, can't thank you enough, man. Absolutely amazing. You guys survived. I hope we didn't destroy your careers going through this experimental show that we had, but you guys were amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you guys on the road. And with that, everyone, enjoy life. You know,